From Prosper Springfield, please welcome Francine Pratt. And from Biz 417, please welcome Adrienne Donica.
Well, thank you, LaDonna, for telling us that we should say thank you more, and thank you, Francine, for being here with us this morning. So you're someone that has been around Springfield for quite a while. Probably a lot of people in the audience are familiar with some of the things you've done, and I'm really excited to talk about your latest endeavor, which is with Prosper Springfield. So recently, you worked with People-Centric Consulting Group to craft a mission for that. So what is that mission, and how is the initiative funded?
Well, I want to start off by saying thank you for having me here. It was quite an honor to work with People-Centric because the style that they used, they had several people who were involved with the Prosper Springfield initiative to basically have a dialogue about how did you come about, why do you exist? And through that dialogue, we were able to create a mission in a matter of less than an hour. And so our mission is to actually build relationships and align community resources to create a system that helps people become more prosperous. And what's key to that mission statement, it's being able to build relationships with those who can help and those who also need help. So it makes it really unique in the work that we do.
And how is the initiative funded?
So the initiative, it's an interesting position because it is a public-private funded position. So we have nonprofits, we have foundations, we have community initiatives that all support the funding for the operations of the position. But what's very important, a lot of the work itself is done through the 300+ organizations who are actually on the ground doing this work in the community. So it's a uniquely funded position, and it's a position that belongs to the community, even though it's housed in the Community Partnership of the Ozarks.
So you're the only person on payroll for this.
Yes, I am.
And you've just mentioned how many partner organizations there are. To remind everyone, that's 300+. How are you approaching that volume?
Well, first we established an advisory council, which is very unique. In those 300+ organizations, it's businesses, it's nonprofit. It's actually divided through 4 different sectors of work across the community. It's education, health, housing, financial security or job security, transportation, and then the key piece is that community awareness and civic engagement that covers all of that.
And you're really championing that awareness building.
Yeah, that's one of the most important pieces because what we're finding, a lot of people who are needing to increase their skill set, and I know we'll talk about that, they don't know what's available. They don't know what resources and services are out there, and there's so much that's happened in the last few years. It's being able to get that information in the right hands so that they know that there are services and resources to help people become more prosperous.
And Prosper Springfield uses what's called a collective impact model, which, if I'm getting this right, means that you're not focused in your role on creating new programs and new systems, but rather relying on already existing programs and systems and services. So how are you going to reach that goal of creating a more prosperous Springfield if you're not creating new systems?
Well, I really appreciate that question. In this work that we've been doing in Springfield for quite a few years, we've had different assessments done by outside entities such as the Lumina Foundation, a Brookings Institution, and one of the things they've made very clear, Springfield has a lot of very good programs, and they use the phrase program rich, systems poor, and so we don't need to create other programs. We need systems to connect the programs so that they're easier to access, easier to use, and to streamline what can be perceived now as duplications. And so being able to look at the work through those 4 different sectors, plus transportation being the 5th one, we'll be able to better align how those systems actually work. So this is not a new program. Prosper Springfield is an initiative, and done right, which I believe we can do this, Our first year was building that infrastructure, seeing what we need to do, talking to those organizations who are not normally at the table, or people in our community who are not normally at the table, to make sure we know how to connect with them. And then being able to actually start looking deep into the work that came out of the Impacting Poverty Collaborative. They created a call to action plan back in October 2015. We're already diving into that and asking who's doing this, who's doing it better, how many people are they serving, what's the impact, how is this going to help with our workforce development so that we have long-term sustainability for our community.
So that first goal, the first goal of Prosperous Springfield is to decrease poverty here in Springfield by 5% by 2030, is that correct?
By 2025, 5 percentage points. We're currently at 25.7. Our goal is to get to 20.7, but equally with that is to increase post-secondary, which is going to be the driving force for that workforce development. As of 2014, we're at 38.59, and we need to get to 60%.
So how are you going to do that? I mean, that's a lot. That's a big difference.
It is, and there's a lot of work that's already taken place in Springfield. Some of that work happened through the Lumina Foundation with a collective impact model, working with the Chamber of Commerce, the Job Center, the Springfield Public Schools, and all of the colleges. And so that pathway is focused on the college pathway. There's a new initiative that is starting. I know we said no new initiatives, but it's really taking the work that the Job Center has already been doing more internally, and it's called Change 1000, which is another system approach of working with employers to create a pre-employment certification with curriculum that was developed by employers as having input into that. And it's creating those systems in those areas where the needs are strongest to help get that done.
So same system, just new branding, perhaps.
Yes.
Okay. So with that, I mean, clearly employment is such a big part of this, and a key to prosperity for really everyone here in 417 land. And I know you've already had a chance to sit down with some local employers. What are those conversations focused on?
So some of it is being able to look at how we recruit, how we utilize workshops and training skills for existing employees. So we call the concept a few dollars more. And what that means, being able to, if you have existing employees, being able to have workshops or training opportunities, and the first thing most employers are going to say, how am I going to fund that? Well, right now in Springfield, the unemployment rate is 1.9%, and quite a few of the employers have vacant positions. So coming from a background of corporate, government, and nonprofit, in that world, if you don't do something with those positions, you lose them. So you can actually use the salary savings from those types of positions where you can do this in your company. It's going to be different for every company, but you can use that to help fund some of those internal workshops. It's my understanding from talking with a lot of employers, the vacant positions are not the entry-level positions. It's the positions that require some additional skills. And so when you have systems in place that can help take care of that pre-employment piece, you can better align existing employees to be motivated and to actually move up within their current jobs. But then you also have people who want to work but don't even necessarily understand what skills they have or how those skills can be developed. And I go back to that 1.9% unemployment rate. Well, in the Northwest Zone 1 area, that unemployment rate is 11%. And so when I look at the system that's being put in place with the Change 1000, it's giving people who are already actively looking for work an opportunity to develop those skills. You also have the opportunity of downgrading positions so that you can actually create a pathway or a ladder to an apprenticeship and then build that position back up. So there's several ways to look at how we currently recruit, how we currently have our positions staffed, and then how we look at what areas in the community are viable for taking advantage of those opportunities.
And we were talking before about how there's this concept of a diversity talent hub, which is something that is a little bit different than a large-scale, more traditional career fair, and you see a lot of benefit in that talent hub model. What is that, and what are the advantages?
I'll tell you where that started. When I was working for Missouri State University and their multicultural programs, and again working with several employers in the community, we had this thing of people would graduate and then they would leave, and they would take all of that knowledge and talent with them. And so in talking with employers, we were looking at not only ethnic and racial diversity, but we were also looking at jobs that were typical for men or typical for women, and trying to get the opposite hired. We also saw, in talking to a lot of college students, that when they went to the larger career fairs, they felt they got lost in the shuffle and they didn't think they had an opportunity. So when we started the Diversity Talent Hub, and this was working again with the Chamber and with the Job Center, it started as an employer meet and greet. It was just to have a venue where they can meet and have discussions and learn about positions and learn about the availability. Well, our employers are so phenomenal. They were telling people, bring your resumes, and they were actually hiring people, creating intern opportunities. And so now we've turned it into the Diversity Talent Hub, because it's a smaller, more intimate setting for people who would be considered historically underrepresented, given an opportunity to engage and connect with employers.
One thing in a previous conversation that we discussed was the language between poverty and prosperity. I think when a lot of people talk about Zone 1 or the northwest part of Springfield here, obviously there is poverty there, but why have you chosen to flip that and focus this as a prosperity initiative?
So just for the record, we have needs across Springfield, even though there's a focus in Zone 1 right now. Here's what's important when we use that word poverty, where we need to be careful. When you look at the federal guidelines of poverty, which is they call it a family unit of 4, 2 adults and 2 kids, it's $24,600 a year. So a lot of work that's going on, especially with the Northwest Project and other systems that are being created, they're recognizing that if they've worked with a family that was at $12,000 a year, and now they're at $24,000 a year, and they have a budget now, and they're working on getting their credit scores up, for some families, that's prosperous enough. You also have some people who are living at or below the level of poverty that are managing or doing well. However, you have a large segment that they're in a place of a difference of $300 or $400 that can make or break them. And so being able to help them, for those who want to hand up, we're able to do that. And so prosperity is going to look different for everyone. And that level of prosperity is going to look different. I don't want to downplay because of what our poverty level is, but I think you also have to be careful in not branding people and recognizing and appreciating people where they are and where they want to go.
Excellent. So where can we expect to see Prosper Springfield in the community in the future, and how can the people here today help?
You will see a lot more about Prosper Springfield. Those first 6 months, we were working on the infrastructure with our new strategic plan. We have 4 set objectives, and one of the key objectives is creating a central communication hub. And with that communication hub, it will be able to let people know who are needing resources, where they can go, using communication avenues that work best for them, as well as those who want to help being able to know how they can get involved and how they can help. We actually had someone who's involved with Prosper Springfield to create a communication plan, and so you'll see more on social media. We have a website that's going to come out soon, but we're also working in the community to get articles into neighborhood associations, into libraries, into other places, because there's so much that we're doing in Springfield right now, a lot of folks don't know about it. And so being able to create something as simple as a did you know, so that they can know where those resources are and where those services are.
Excellent. Well, that is all we have today. Thank you so much again for telling us more about Prosper Springfield. It's
all right.
great
Thank
and
you
very
for
exciting.
the opportunity.